Hello, this is Mr. Doty again with another hopefully helpful video on how to create architectural dimensions in AutoCAD. Some of the problems that some of you may have is you're like, well, why are my numbers so small? How do I figure this out? Well, depending on which AutoCAD class you took and who taught you may determine on if you know how to do this correctly. One of the things that you can do, well, first of all, when you set up an architectural drawing, uh, you know that you have to go to, format. You have to go to units, and it showed up on the other screen, so drop it over here. If you're doing architectural, it should be set to architectural, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of this right now. If I was doing a plot plan, then I would adjust this. I would change this to surveyor unit so that I could do my correct lines the right direction, in relationship to north. But in this case, we're just doing architectural. Everything else is good. We hit OK. Of course, then I would set up my limits for my drawing, and I would go from there. Now, as far as dimensions go, we'll fix this in a second anyway. We'll do it through this, and it showed up on the other screen, so there we go. All right, so when you get in here, well, if you look at back over on this, you have standard and you have annotative. Now, I can show you how to do annotative. It's really not that hard. Sometimes it doesn't show up the way you want, and that is the new way of creating text the right size or changing the scale of your dimensions. So anyway, I'm going to show you the old school way first, and then I'll go back and show you annotative. All right, as far as, let's stick this on top so you don't get lost. Okay, so basically when you get a drawing set up to start with, if you have not modified it at all, the extend beyond dimension lines under your lines tab is set to 3/16. I don't know who came up with this, but it's supposed to be an eighth. The person that did the program didn't confer with a drafter or designer on what's the correct standard. So we have 1/8 inch for that. This can stay the same. You go to symbols and arrows. Your arrows obviously should be 1/8 inch. I'm going to turn center marks to none because we probably won't be using it in architecture, but we'll just do that. This is fine, this is fine, this is fine. Those are all good. You go to text. Guess what? Text should be 1/8 inch. Now this is where you need to make sure you have a couple of things set up. When I have people create their template, I have them set this up. So you click on this little button. This brings up your text style, which you can also get under format and text style. So I only have one, and it's set to 0. Now that's a good thing because I need one set to 0 because that's the only way my dimension command will scale my text correctly. Otherwise, the text style command or settings are, in effect. So I'm going to create a new one, which is what we do whenever I have you create your template. And on that one, you have one set to an 1/8, or at least you should. And font wise, I just have mine on Arial because it's easy to read. Your font should be easy to read. It shouldn't be some weird one. You're not going to use wingdings. You're not going to use, something, Gothic English or something like that that's really hard to read. Okay, so if I was using my existing template, then that's probably what I'd have. Now, if I, well, yeah, I probably have this. All right, so I'm going to create another new one. Yes, I want to save my changes. And I'm going to create style 2. Now, if you're making a 1/4 inch is equal to a foot drawing, then the size of your text is going to be 6 inches tall. And I've got a chart that I'm going to duplicate, and we'll go from there. So 6-inch height is what you need, and I'm just going to rename this one. Oops. Yes, I do. I'm going to rename this one ARCH and space 1-4. Oh, can't use those characters. Well, you know what? We'll just redo it. Alright, ARCH 1. There we go. Alright, so this is my 1/4 inch lettering. If it was 1/8 inch, then it would be a foot. And I've got a chart, like I said, that I'm going to stick on the class so that you can kind of get an idea for your different scales. It also is going to help you, and I'll show you here in a minute, on some other sizes. So I've got my architectural size here set to 6 inches. Now that would be for any notes or text that you're going to label things with to keep it the right size. Now this is only for 1/4 inches equal to a foot. Like I said, I have a chart for other scales. We're going to hit close. Oh, this set current. Hit close. Okay, good deal. Now you're saying, well, why are you going to keep standard for this? Yes, I'm going to keep standard for this because standard is set to 0. Okay, and that's what I need to do my dimensions. 1/8 inch text height, that's fine. Alright, this is good. This is off. Oh, now we do need to do this. It needs to be above. Centered is good, but it needs to be above. Aligned with dimension line. That's the other thing that changes with architecture. So now we can move on. Now fit, this is actually where we do our changes for scale. We set everything to like 1-to-1 scale basically. And then we come over here and we go fit and we say, alright, in this case, and something that you can kind of figure out is there's 12 inches in a foot. If I have a 1/4 inch is equal to a foot, that means basically there's 4 feet per inch. Well, 12 times 4 is 48. And it just kind of works out that way. Like if you have 1/8 inch is equal to a foot, then the scale factor is 96, which is 12 times 8. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make this 48 because I have 1/4 inch is equal to a foot is what I need. So this is going to scale everything up 48 times to where I want it. Alright, now I'm going to go to primary units. My primary units are going to be architectural. There we go. Now it's going to show up. Precision, if you want to make it a 16th, that's fine. Honestly, you shouldn't have any weird dimensions like that. Your smallest dimension should be a 1/2 inch. If you were doing cinder blocks or concrete masonry units or concrete blocks, if you will, you might have a 3/8 or a 5/8 or some weird dimension like that. But we're not doing that. We're just doing normal. We got 2x4s. They're 3.5 inches thick. So a 1/2 inch is going to be, you know, your smaller ones. Okay, zero suppression. Well, there's 2 ways you can do this. I'm going to get rid of the 0 inches because I do want it to show 0 inches. You could do get rid of the 0 feet, but honestly, let's just take that off also so that we have no 0 suppression in this case. Alright, let's see. Anything else need to be fixed here? Now, this scale factor does not change, okay? This would mess you up on your measurements. Don't mess with this one. The only one you change is this one. And I set it to 48. Alright, let's go back and just double check. So on our lines, as a review, 1/8 inch extend beyond line, 16th is fine. This is all good. Now I used to create different text dimension styles, one where you have your extension lines suppressed or unsuppressed, but it doesn't really matter because they pretty much, if you go on top of the other one, it's not that big a deal. I just shorten them up. It's no big deal. We don't suppress dimension lines. That's fine. Now, here's something that you could do if you wanted to. They have an architectural tick. That's another option. Your I guess dot small there. They used to use that a long time ago, but for the most part, you're either going to see this guy or you're going to see this guy. And in AutoCAD, I just leave it on this because I like arrowheads. They work. So arrowhead is 1/8 inch tall. This doesn't change. Text 1/8 inch. We've already figured that. Fraction height scale. That's fine. We did it above. It's centered and it's aligned. And then go back to fit. This doesn't really matter because you can adjust it by picking on the grips. This is fine. So architectural, uncheck those, and that's really all there is to it. So once you hit OK, and you know, this guy is set to current, and we hit close. Alright, so if I go and draw a line, and I draw the line 8 feet long. Notice that I put in the foot mark that it'll recognize now that I have architecture units set up. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to say 8'4". You don't have to put in the inches. Alright, and I'm going to zoom out. Okay, so to do a dimension, I'm just going to go to linear, and I'm going to pick a dimension, and there it is. Okay, so that's 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. If I go to my layout, don't know what that was, but anyway, so if I had found my template and knew where the heck it was, that'd be cool. So basically on this, I have a template already kind of out there that you can use that's on the layout, or not on the layout, but actually in the it's in model space for right now. But if you wanted to set this up, you'd set this up for a C-size sheet, probably 18 by 24. 24 by 36 would be another option. And then you put your title block down here in the bottom corner. I'm just going to show you what this looks like as far as scaled. So you go in here, you activate your viewport, and you go down here and you have all these different scales, okay? Or you should, let's just put it this way. So if I hit 1/4 inch is equal to a foot, that is a 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. So if I did, okay, so if I were to print this out, take my architecture scale, I can measure that and it should come up to 8'4". Okay? And this is 1/8 inch tall. These are 1/8 inch long. This has an 1/8 inch past. And now that I look at it, that looks kind of big. Maybe we should go less. But now you think about it, if it was 3/16, it'd be huge, way up here. Alright, so that is how you set that up. Okay? This is the way I normally do it. And that's just, it's a good way to do it. Your other option, you go to Dimension Style, you go to Annotative, go to Modify. Now, in this one, we're just going to set it up for architecture. This, you don't mess with this because you're using Annotative. I'll explain here in a sec. Text, standard's good. Symbols and arrows, turn that down, none. Go to lines, extend beyond dimension lines. That's good. Oh, I forgot to go here. Aligned and above. Okay, so that should be pretty good shape. So I hit OK, and I'm going to hit set current for that one, hit close. Now let's go back to model space. Alright, so I'm going to go to dimension, or sorry, going to go to linear. Or you know what, let me just draw two different lines, another line, right? So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to make it 4 foot 8. And apparently I drew it at that line, at that angle. Now, here's another thing that you need to remember. If you have something at an angle like that, you use a line. You're creating an annotative object. Set the annotation scale. Alright, my annotation scale is set to 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. So that's something that it helps you remember. See, I don't use it very often, so I forgot. There you go. Now, you notice it shows up down here. This is your annotation scale. Show annotative objects. You do want that. And then it says add scales to objects when the annotation scale changes. Now, you'll want to turn that on if you goofed up or you have two different scales for something. Well, that doesn't really work. See, that kind of messes with things because then things don't. That's the bad thing about annotative scale. If you had a drawing that you had different scales for different things, like a section or something, that might be on the same drawing or in the same file. See, that's when the old school way actually would work, and you could actually have it set up for different scales. So anyway, we're going to have that on, and we're just going to go ahead and pick this guy right here. And there it is. Now you'll notice that these two are the same size. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, and that's annotative, and this has to be on or they don't show up. So then we go to layout 1. Look, they're the same size, right? And if I were to activate it, show annotative objects at current scale. Sometimes if that's not on, they don't show up, so just make sure it's there. There's our scale. Everything's good. They're equal, so it doesn't give you any errors. Alright, so that's basically it on creating this. Sorry if the video is too long for some people, but you know, hey, it is what it is. Hopefully I went slow enough to where you can understand. You can go back and look at it. Main thing is you got two options here. I showed you the standard one. That's the one I use mostly. Your fit's going to be 48 for this drawing. For most drawings, 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. Like I said, I'm going to post a scale page that shows different sizes for text and things. Now, one last thing before we go. Like I mentioned, text. So if I do single line text, remember I said that I set that up as 6 inches. Well, let's see. Specify height. Oh, really? Well, hang on a second. Let's go to style. Let's make sure that, standard set. Sorry, don't know why, but there you go. Alright, so I've got that set for my style for text. We'll go back. Single line text. Your angle is always 0. Yeah, it's always 0. Alright, so then if we were doing note, whoops, it's always capitalized, enter, enter, there it is. Notice that they are the same size. So, there you go. If you have any questions, send me an email. Thank you and have a lovely day.